Pledge of Allegiance, and we have someone from the K-9 unit. Officer Simons is going to do that for us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And then please remain standing. Chaplain Oliver's going to give us the invocation.
Heavenly Father, we come this morning gathered here in your presence, thanking you for this great body. We thank you for these dedicated men and women who serve us in this city to make sure that we're safe. We ask now your wisdom to be present here today as they discuss the affairs that's needed to continuously give us the service and the protection that you have ordained this body to do. I ask that you would bless every officer, every leader, every member of their families. And as we continue to remember the officers that have fallen, Lord, let us be thankful for these courageous men and women who will give their life, their time, and their talents to keep this city safe. This is our prayer in Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. And you can go ahead and sit down, but I'm going to invite the people that are going to accept the resolution. Chief, did you tell me that Cassie's here? Okay. If you'll come forward, we've got resolution for James Mulbauer and Champ Field. That's the name of the field. And I guess it's just that one. I thought there were two. We'll be right there. We're going to give it to you, and the mayor's then going to sign it as soon as he gets here.
Whereas James M. Mulbauer faithfully served the Kansas City, Missouri Police Department for 20 years, from December 18, 2002 through February 15, 2023. And whereas James M. Mulbauer spent his entire career in patrol, including his last 3 years of service in the K-9 unit. And whereas K-9 Champ, a 3-year-old Dutch Shepherd, faithfully served the Kansas City, Missouri Police Department for 1 year. And whereas K-9 Champ was James M. Mulbauer's partner and lived with the Mulbauer family. And whereas James M. Mulbauer and K-9 Champ were killed in the line of duty on the evening of February 15, 2023, after a vehicle crashed into their patrol vehicle at a high rate of speed. And whereas the K-9 unit provides support to patrol officers and other investigative elements in locating drugs, explosives, article searches, area field searches, building searches, and apprehensions. And whereas the K-9 unit is located on the South Patrol Division campus at 9701 Marion Park Drive, Kansas City, Missouri. And whereas members of the K-9 unit and regional partners utilize the K-9 unit's training field for annual certifications and seminars through the National Police K-9 Association. And now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Police Commissioners of Kansas City, Missouri hereby expresses its sincere gratitude and genuine appreciation for James M. Mulbauer's and K-9 Champ's dedication, service, and ultimate sacrifice to the Kansas City, Missouri Police Department and the city of Kansas City, Missouri. And the board takes great pleasure in naming the K-9 unit facility the James M. Mulbauer and K-9 Champ Training Field.
On our agenda next is the mayor's designee for this, to speak for the city. And the mayor's not here to tell me. Councilman Rea usually does. Is there anyone here to speak on behalf of the city council? Then we have a special presentation from the K-9 unit, I think. Is that right? No. Chief Cripps. Well, they told me I had someone else. All right. Was there someone else from the K-9 unit? Okay. It's your turn.
Okay, good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
I gave you all a copy of the crime plan and included the blog. So last week, we released our KCPD crime plan. And while I shared and released this crime plan last week, we began carrying this out in 2023 as soon as I became chief of police. The crime plan is a high-level view of evidence-based strategies. It's fueled by data and analysis, and it's not all-inclusive of the efforts to fight crime. There's not one way to quantitatively put all of the good contacts that officers have with people, nor some of the great police work that officers carry out each day. And the primary strategies that comprise a plan are data-informed community engagement, data-driven deployment, and focused deterrence. And the goals of the plan are straightforward, and there is numerical reductions as part of the strategy, and one that is a sustained reduction of violent crime and property crime by a minimum of 10%. Sustained increases in citizen satisfaction by a minimum of 10%. To improve police legitimacy and build relationships and trust with community members, business owners, and local government institutions. So while this is a KCPD plan, it obviously includes participation from the community, from the people of Kansas City, and working in a citywide approach to addressing crime and prevention, intervention, and enforcement. And with this plan and our community and local leaders, we truly are moving forward together with momentum and strong will to reduce violent crime, making our city safer for all of us. And why I want to talk a little bit about the momentum and the togetherness. The theme of the KC Public Safety Forum, it was a symposium over the weekend on Friday and Saturday. It was organized by Mayor Pro Tem Park Shaw, Willie Barney from the Empowerment Network, you had KC Common Good, and you had a lot of the key stakeholders that convened for this 2-day event and working together for a safer, healthier Kansas City. And on that momentum, we definitely have a synergy amongst key stakeholders involved in moving forward and reducing violent crime. And it's not just in words, but it's in actions. Some of the takeaways from the symposium over the weekend were just that, were actions. And I can tell you from what I've witnessed in my career over 27 years, this synergy is something that I haven't specifically witnessed before, so it gives me a lot of hope. So I just want to end my words today on being hopeful for the future, for us coming together for a holistic, citywide approach to reducing crime in Kansas City. Do you have any questions for me? Okay.
And Mayor Pro Tem Park Shaw was one of the leaders of that, correct?
Yes.
She has been a great ally in reducing crime, period, but particularly violent crime.
Yes, she has.
Now I'm going to go back one spot on the agenda and ask Councilman Rea if you'd like to speak. We're happy to have you here. And please tell Mayor Pro Tem Park Shaw that we appreciate her leadership in the 2-day program that she did Saturday. Was it Friday and Saturday? Friday and Saturday.
Yeah, I'm happy to pass that along. I'm Crispin Reyes, City Council 4th District at large. Don't have too much of an update today. Just a couple items that will be coming before council here soon. One item is an ordinance that will create a alternative response program. Some are referring to it as a pre-arrest program, diversion program, but it is an alternative response model for certain situations, including folks who are experiencing homelessness or mental health issues. I believe several conversations have occurred with the chief to bring her up to speed on the program. I personally think it'll be a good opportunity to reduce some of the burden on some of our officers who could be spending their time responding to more serious items out in the community, and so that will be coming before the council this week. One additional update, as I think I might have mentioned this last time I spoke to you all, was we would be receiving a preliminary report on the jail committee, the Detention and Rehabilitation Center, and the study we received in 2019. That presentation happened about 2 weeks ago, and we received an updated number associated with our needs for bed space. That number was 128 beds. However, we've asked the forensic analysts to go back and to consider several additional scenarios, such as if we increase hiring with the police department and have additional officers, what does that look like? And I think we'll have a more accurate number when we receive that information. And that presentation, what should be, I don't want to say a final report because I can't anticipate what questions my colleagues might have, but that should be a more solid number to rely on here, and next week is when that presentation will be. So that's all I have for today.
What's the process, Councilman, after you receive that report? Does the committee reassemble then to consider and make recommendations, or what are next steps?
Yeah, so I think after we have that information, we will have a scientific basis to rely on for what our bed need is, and that'll begin the policy and political conversation among our committee and other council members. And so what I envision happening is we will have some ordinance or set of ordinances that we will pass out that have recommendations on the size of the facility, on how we're going to finance it, and where it will be located. After that happens, that work will go to the full council for consideration. Also in the mix, and as we're having the conversations among council members, we will need to move quickly once we make a determination on the size of the facility to get an updated cost estimate, because that'll have a direct bearing on how we examine the public safety sales tax, if that's the source of funds that we will rely on. And so there's a couple other things that have to happen in there, but those would be the next steps as I see it. Ultimately, heading to a point where if we are going to use the public safety sales tax as a means to fund the facility, we would be looking at a renewal campaign sometime in the future.
I just want you to know too, Councilman Rea has kept me apprised of the progress of this committee, which I'm very appreciative of. I will say that the bed number of 120 is too low for Kansas City from my perspective. 2019, I believe the number was 310 or somewhere around that number. And I think that in my perspective, the reason for this low number of bed recommendation is I think some of it was like the behavior changes with police arrests post 2020. But I think it also goes in that we don't have, I think we're only operating one patrol division station, that's Metro Patrol. There is a limited number of spaces in Metro Patrol, which in turn has a cause and effect on officers arresting folks and actually bringing them in. Sometimes because if Metro is already full and is no longer taking arrests, we will signature bond people at the scene. So I think that might be a reason for a reflection in some of the behavior changes, so to speak. The bed numbers we have at, I think it's Johnson County and Vernon County, are just at maybe 100, and sometimes those bed spaces are full. So I just want to just take this opportunity to say that I'm keeping an eye on that. I think we need to build a sustainable number of a jail with a sustainable number that is a right size for our city, and I know, like, we are also a growing city. I want to make sure that I put forth any type of recommendation, or as someone from my seat is saying, this is what I think that, from a public safety perspective, that we need in Kansas City. And thank you for having that open dialogue. I appreciate it, and keeping me involved in that conversation from the police perspective. But yeah, that's just my perspective on that low number. And I hope that with ongoing conversation and whatever that scientific data is, that we'll be able to get to a more reasonable number than 128. And it's not the position of the police to want to incarcerate folks that don't need to be, but we do need a mechanism in place where we do have a certainty of consequences, even at the city level, where if there is some kind of a city level infraction, that there is not only a deterrent, but that there's a consequence for breaking the law here in Kansas City.
One of the things I know we were looking at was using, instead of just Metro Patrol, where we used to have the jail in the
8th floor.
8th floor of this that building. Is that something that can be done before we have a new jail?
Are you in on those conversations?
I am, but I'll follow your lead on the update.
I don't necessarily have an update on that because that wouldn't lie over here, I would say. But I will say from our perspective, that would be desirable. It's not a detention facility, it's a holding facility. Everyone that's there is temporary, but that would definitely benefit KCPD. All of our investigators, well, most of our investigators are here at headquarters, and it does make it more convenient to have contact with some of those arrests and to have them right here at headquarters at a centrally located.
And if I could add on that point, my belief is that the potential use for that floor would be for intake. And
Correct.
And this is my own opinion, not as the committee or the rest of the council. I am not too excited about building that capacity into the detention and rehabilitation center. And the reason for that is because if you're being held in the intake center, you're most likely being held on a 24-hour hold. If you did something serious enough that has warranted a 24-hour hold, it's because there's a prosecutor over at Jackson County who's hoping to charge you while you're in custody, which I don't know what the percentage would be, but the vast majority of those folks are going to be charged and end up being transferred to Jackson County rather than municipal court. And so Chief and I have had this conversation, and the extent to which that we need to be building that capacity into our facility versus somewhere else or someone else.
Thank you, that's helpful.
So I do have a question, because when I was on the Bloomberg committee, when we first started that, part of all that research, we were looking at city jails where the crime had really gone down and made a difference. And I believe then we were looking at realistically the cities where the crime had really gone down and they were doing everything right that were our size. They had about 1,200. And I know I had brought that up when we had first started that with the mayor when we went over. And I just don't know whatever happened to that, but that was, back then, that's what we were looking at, all the different cities that were having success. And part of it was just because we had those cells to hold people accountable and then get them the help that they needed with, whether it was rehab or that, because we knew, obviously they weren't just going to show up and say, hey, I need help, but this was a great way to get them those services that they would eventually need. But we had to have somewhere to put them to start that.
Yeah, and I think a lot has changed. I don't know what year that study was done, but just going back to 2019 alone, when we received the presentation a couple weeks ago as an update to the report, arrests are about 50% of what they were since 2019. The change in the Missouri Supreme Court's bond rules, which have changed how courts all the way down the system have amended their practices around release and holding folks. The pandemic has also had an impact on bond practices and how, the reasons folks are being held and how long they're being held. And of course, criminal justice reforms. And so my takeaway from the report was those are all fairly significant, substantial changes to the system that have impacted why the algorithm or equation spat out a different number than it did in 2019. And so, I don't expect anything to change around bond rules or, the way we do release and those types of practices post-pandemic. I think that's just the world we live in now. What could change is the arrest rate as it relates to staffing, and knowing that we have a budget item before us in the coming weeks that will increase salaries and staffing. We asked the forensic analysts to consider scenarios and tell us, how does this number change if we hire 100 officers versus 200 officers versus being fully staffed? And does that change the need for space as it would change the arrest rate or anything like that? And so we will get that information back. Another factor that will play into that is this alternative response program and the extent to which that will change, a need for bed space. I'm a little hesitant myself to put too much weight on fluctuations in staffing, because that can change from administration to administration. That could change at the political whims of whoever's making the decisions, and we are long gone, whereas, a facility is going to be a permanent facility that won't have too much flexibility to change in its size. But I think that is important information for us to have. I think we will receive a number that is higher than 128 beds, and honestly, that's why we're doing our due diligence, to make sure we're considering all the important things we need to be considering. I don't expect them to come back with 1,000+ recommendation or anything like that. And I'm not, like I said, I don't remember what year that report was done, but I'd be happy to take a look at it. I would invite the chief to sit down and talk to the folks who have done this forensic analysis. One of the most important factors that they've presented to us is the population projection, and the expected growth out over the next however many decades is a major factor in coming to that conclusion.
Well, and I know one of the things that we had looked at then was building a shell where we could eventually put more, into upstairs or different stories and add to it as we needed it, which I thought was a great idea at the time. And then we got to look at the fact that we have career criminals that keep getting out, that get their hands slapped, and they keep upping what they're doing, and it's getting worse, and that's why our violent crime is so high. I think that's a big part of, having the cells to put them in and start holding people more accountable. So it sends that message.
Well, one thing that you did mention, you mentioned, arrests. And sometimes we will make an arrest and give someone a signature bond, but they still have that court date to go to. So I think we need to even look beyond the actual arrest and the time when someone goes to court. Is there a consequence thereafter, even if they weren't necessarily taken into custody right then and held? But given the signature bond and having to answer for whatever those charges are later, and there being the ability to provide a consequence. Also, when it comes to, there were a lot of bond changes, and some of them I agreed with some of them, but there are some of those ordinances that I do think should go back to being a bondable offense, and I will say careless driving is one of those. We've had conversations about what that would look like in changing that back, because as you know, we have some really dangerous drivers. You can see, Deputy Chief Maben talks about the rate of fatality accidents, and one of the main causing factors is speed, not wearing a seatbelt also, but also intoxication. So you're getting those two charges. You needed two offenses to make that careless driving. And also at some certain speeds, it would be a bondable offense. And also you can also apply that when you're addressing street racers. So you can actually take someone into custody. So I hope that that's also part of that conversation, is looking beyond the arrests at those numbers. And then as I've looked at other cities, just because I talked to my peers in other major cities, some of these bondable offenses or some of these ordinances that were either done away with or reconfigured or reformed, some of these cities are going back and looking at changing some of those back to where they were. I know some of those is in some of the low-level narcotics and whatnot, but also in other kind of quality of life issues. So I just wanted to make that point, and I so thank you so much for keeping me involved in that conversation. And I appreciate the phone calls and the open dialogue that we have. I really do. I appreciate it.
Yes, we appreciate all your work on this. Thank you.
Any other questions for me?
No, thank you very much for
Thank you all.
being here. Colonel Niemeyer?
Good morning. My items will be listed under tab B. I want to start, first off, with a little update on our Violent Crimes Division. The picture you see in front of you is Sergeant Deering's squad. Sergeant Deering's squad is the group that took the lead on the investigation at the Chief's Parade. Those detectives, along with lots of other detectives in our bureau, worked on the parade shooting. But right there, that group, a couple of them are missing from the picture, but that group right there, it continues to this day to work on interviewing multiple people that were involved in that incident. But I really wanted to say how much I appreciate their hard work, everything they did, the timeliness that they did, and the hours that they put in on that case alone. Also, in the past month, our assault squad, I think the day of our last board meeting was the day that the Crown Center shooting, the charges came out on that. Sergeant Cram and his squad, along with the other assault squads, put in numerous hours to bring that to resolve as well. And then I think yesterday it was reported out, our sex crimes unit took someone off our streets that has really been a problem in Kansas City for years. So I want to thank, well, now it's Sergeant Canate. He got promoted on Sunday, but Detective Canate, he took those cases, really put them together, and along with Detective Studel, were able to get those charges filed. And I'm really proud of the way they handled themselves and the work that they did in order to get those charges done. So I really appreciate all the hard work in the last month from our Violent Crimes Unit. It's a copy of the blue sheet that was passed out this morning. So far in 2024, we've had 27 homicides that have involved 23 different incidents. We've cleared 9 of those homicides, 5 of those homicides from previous years, for a total of 14 for a 52% clearance. I do want you to note that we have 15 cases currently at the prosecutor's office for review. So hopefully we will be able to have the homicide committee look at those, and that clearance rate should go up.
So all 15 are homicides?
Of those 15, of those 15 cases, yes, ma'am. This is a breakdown of the homicides for 2024. We had 14 homicides in February from 12 incidents. Of those in February alone, 4 of those were cleared. 6 have been solved but not cleared yet, and then 4 are still under investigation. And in the month of March, we have had 7 homicides. But I wanted to make a note. As you can see, 5 of those happened in East Patrol. We had a total of 7. There were 2 homicides that occurred. We don't know the exact location yet. They occurred inside of a vehicle, and we don't know exactly where it occurred in the city. So we didn't post that within a division yet until the investigation is a little more complete, and then we'll note what division that occurred in. Non-fatal shootings. From January 1 to March 14th, which is last Friday, we've had 132 non-fatal shooting victims. In 2023, we had 93 victims at the same time, which is a 42% increase compared to last year. In February, we had 63 non-fatal shooting victims compared to 35, which is an 80% increase. With that increase, we had those two major events that I just talked about. We had the parade, we also had Crown Center, and we had three additional shootings that had multiple victims in them. So when we see that large change, it's obviously those events.
I could just jump in really quick. While we were working the St. Patrick's Day Parade at the Emergency Operations Center, I got a chance to talk to some of our healthcare workers, and they are, some of them were connected to SEMA, and they were talking about and I know that's acronyms, so please don't ask me just to say what each one of them stands for, but there is a DMAT crew, and they're the ones that had the tents in and around the tragedy in front of Union Station that day. And if it weren't for them being there, those ER doctors that were manning that tent, they saved lives that day. So I'm just really thankful that we were all there together when tragedy struck. So I just wanted to point that out, how important it was that they were there on scene that day.
During the month of February, we submitted a total of 274 cases for prosecution. 225 were submitted to Jackson County, 34 to Clay County, and 15 to Platte County. We submitted 0 cases to Cass County. And I will say I'm going to talk about a couple incidents. This is not the incident I'm going to talk about because they're ongoing, but I wanted you to have a photograph of what it looks like, this amount. We did a search, our Special Investigations Division did a search this past month of a residence where we recovered 161.5 pounds of methamphetamines. That's an ongoing investigation, but that is a large amount of narcotics in one house that we took off. We also did an interdiction in which we took 2,650 fentanyl pills and made an arrest on that. And then just as of yesterday, this is ongoing as well, we were able to interdict 4 kilos, which is 8.8 pounds of fentanyl and meth. So I wanted to make sure that the board is aware, that the city's aware. We are making large impacts on the amount of narcotics that are coming to and through our city. So I really appreciate that work. Those folks don't obviously get noticed a lot because of their nature of their work, but we are making headway on this. So with that, I will just conclude my report unless you have any other questions. And again, before I stop, I just want to thank everybody in our bureau. February was a lot of work for the Investigations Division, both on the violent crime side and the SID side, or Special Investigations Division side.
I do have one quick question, if that's okay. On our monthly reports, is there a way that you could maybe pick out, let's say, 3 people a month that are on here for homicide? And I know we can't list names or anything, but list in a generic form, if they were career criminals, like so many arrests. Is that something we could do just so the public can kind of see, like our top 3 or top 5, just pick a number on how many times prior they've been arrested or this keeps happening, just so we can kind of get a feel as to what we're looking at.
Okay, I'll look into it for sure.
Any other? No. Thank you, Colonel.
Thank you.
Colonel Maven.
Good morning.
I have to say, I'm very pleased that I didn't hear any bad things about the St. Patrick's Day Parade, and I'm sure that your people have a lot to do with that.
Well, thank you. The whole department chipped in. All the bureaus, the commanders, it was mandatory for them to work. And then FBI, Jackson County Sheriff's Department, KCK Police, Missouri Highway Patrol. We had a lot of people who assisted with it.
I understand it was successful, and I appreciate it.
Thank you. My information is under tab C in your books. I'll begin with the Patrol Bureau updates and notable events. Next, then I will cover the response time report and the traffic summary. And then finally, we'll have a brief presentation of some of the programs the department has implemented to do outreach for young people in the community. Beginning with the Community Engagement Division, the Police Athletic League had a total of 1,303 visits for the month of February. The average daily number of visits was 63. They also had 46 new enrollments. PAL had 10 tutoring sessions with 31 kids for a total of 136 hours of instruction. They also partnered with the Drug Enforcement Administration's Educational Foundation to introduce the martial art of Muay Thai to the kids. The course was taught by an instructor who emphasized skills such as discipline and self-control. The course ended in an open training session which allowed PAL staff, family and friends, and other PAL kids the opportunity to watch the participants throughout the class. And not to be outdone, DARE officers taught in 21 different schools, 55 different classrooms, and reached 1,167 students during the reporting period. Metro Patrol Division conducted a street racing operation in the area of Grandview and Blue River Road. This resulted in over 20 citations being issued, 9 vehicles being towed from the scene, and an AR-15 pistol being recovered. North Patrol Division organized another multi-jurisdictional expired license plate enforcement operation, which included traffic, Gladstone PD, Platte Woods PD, Missouri State Highway Patrol, Platte County Sheriff's Department, Clay County Sheriff's Department, and the Compliance and Investigations Bureau of Missouri's Department of Revenue. The actions taken that day resulted in 71 warnings, 174 citations, along with 37 temp tags and 27 license plates confiscated. You may recall this is the second successful expired license plate enforcement operation in the past 2 months.
I do recall that, and I've seen a bunch of expired temporary tags particularly. But when you said license plates confiscated, what does that amount to?
So if they are expired, then we will remove the tags and send it back to the Department of Revenue and issue citations.
Great.
The Special Operations Division. The tactical response teams responded to 1 Operation 100, executed 9 search warrants, made 18 investigation arrests, and 62 warrant arrests. And they also instructed 3 days of active shooter training during in-service. K-9 section. They responded to 82 calls for service and assisted district officers 28 times. During one call, Officer Trost deployed K-9 Rocco, who helped apprehend a suspect wanted for assault on a law enforcement officer. Helicopter section flew a total of 96 hours and responded on 130 calls, 46 of which they were first on the scene. They assisted patrol officers on 6 separate occasions where the vehicles initially refused to stop for officers. And in these instances, the helicopter followed the vehicle and provided updates to the ground crews who were able to respond to the vehicle after it stopped, and in many cases, take parties into custody, all without having to initiate a vehicle pursuit. Here's February's median response time report. The median response time for priority 1 calls was 8 minutes and 1 second. This is a 12-second decrease compared to January. The median response time for priority 2 calls was approximately 10 minutes and 19 seconds. This is a 25-second increase compared to January. However, it's still a 21-second decrease compared to December 2023. Average 911 hold time for February was 25 seconds, a 1-second increase compared to the previous month. Moving on to the Traffic Division's monthly report. From the beginning of the year through the end of February, there were 17 fatal car crashes with a total of 20 people killed. 8 fatal crashes occurred during the month of February. 2 of those involved hit and runs. However, suspects have been identified in both cases. Those cases, along with 3 others, will be presented to prosecutors when all the evidence has been examined and the case files completed. The remaining 3 cases from February were exceptionally cleared with the death of the offender. And in an effort to reduce serious injury and fatal car crashes, the Traffic Enforcement Unit has revised operational practices to allow their officers more time to enforce traffic violations. As a result, in February, 1,653 speeding tickets were issued compared to 589 in January.
So if you pause right there, I noticed that was almost a 3X increase over the month. And help me understand again what attributed to that significant increase.
So due to staffing issues, the traffic enforcement squads also assist in taking car accident reports. But we've recalibrated their schedule and changed the little things to where that they freeze them up some more time so that they can actually do enforcement duties. And they also, respond to, Chiefs games, parades, various other things. And they're on call to respond to black off streets for, say, a homicide. And so they've just recalibrated their schedule to allow them more time to actually do some enforcement. And I will say, in full disclosure, January was freezing cold too, so that might have contributed somewhat, but not exclusively. We have been intentional in trying to enforce traffic laws, because as the chief mentioned earlier, speed does contribute highly to serious accidents and fatal accidents.
Do you think the 11-hour shift had anything to do with it?
No, traffic is not on an 11-hour shift. It's strictly the patrol officers.
Thank you.
I'm going to go to the DUI. There we go. Here are the DUI Wolfpack numbers for February. The DUI section conducted 7 Wolfpack operations with a combined total of 64 traffic stops, 69 tickets issued, and 17 DUI arrests. There were an additional 66 DUI arrests not associated with Wolfpacks during the month, bringing the department total to 83. In the parking control section has also been extremely productive during the reporting period. They responded to 727 calls for service in February and issued 957 citations. In comparison, they responded to 687 calls for service in January and issued 718 citations. So they really stepped it up, on top of assisting with traffic control during special events. So they're extremely busy as well. During last month's meeting, Mayor Lucas asked about some of the ways that KCPD reaches out to youth who are at risk for being involved in violence. So I invited Sergeant Gore with the Community Engagement Division to present some of our youth outreach programs.
I think we got that squared away. My name is Andrew Gore. I'm a supervisor over the Community Engagement Division. Like the Colonel said, we're just going to give a brief overview of some of the juvenile initiatives that we're taking on here in community engagement. Community engagement, like Chief Graves has said multiple different times, we're built on the 4 pillars of reducing violence through intervention, prevention, enforcement, and reentry. This is not all of community engagement, but our community engagement resources that are associated with juvenile initiatives. You have community interaction officers, we have our social service specialists, we have our youth services unit, which entails DARE, GREAT, Police Athletic League, and our school resource officers. Measuring our reach. These are statistics for 2023. In 2023, Dare and Great was taught in 42 different schools, reaching 4,549 different students. For the Police Athletic League, we had approximately 13,000 students attend PAL in 2023. And when you're looking at the 3-year period of 2020 to 2023, we had a 260% increase in youth involvement in that particular program. This diagram just kind of gives you an idea of what one of our goals is with community engagement. When you're looking at us in law enforcement as the edge, going over the edge of the waterfall, we are historically very reactive, and we're really good about being reactive. When you look at community engagement, our resources, we want to catch things way, way upstream. We want a large reactionary gap. What does that reactionary gap do? That reactionary gap, the farther out we are, allows us to have more options. We can look at things more clearer, and we can get in that intervention prevention model way, way upstream. As you start to progress towards the edge of the waterfall, our options kind of decrease. You start to have pre-event indicators of things going to happen or potentially going wrong up to the point they're going to go over the waterfall. So all of our resources, for the most part, are really geared towards catching things as far upstream as we can. Getting ahead of the problem. These are strategies that we're employing, our tools in community engagement, where we're really trying to get to the heart of some of these issues. One of them is meeting with schools in regards to youth behavior and violence. These meetings are intended to build relationship with schools while developing intervention and prevention strategies to address behavior in the schools. Working with outside law enforcement agencies and community partners, engaging in conversations regarding risk for retaliation, student fears and safety, and opening up communication with the KCPD and different school districts. Our social service specialists are key in the implementation of the pillars of intervention and prevention, and ways to achieve this is by meeting with families and their schools at home and through advocacy through the Juvenile Assessment Center and Youth Court. And finally, we're utilizing our school resource officers and our youth programs to reach youth outside of the normal school business hours. Our social service specialists, like we've said, they're really key component to community engagement, and that includes their participation and their goals with addressing youth. They respond to homicide scenes and shooting scenes, which, as everybody knows, our youth are unfortunately heavily involved in. And they're there to address the youth and to meet with the families and the friends and the loved ones on scene. Our social workers, in conjunction with some of our investigative elements and our community partners, conduct risk for retaliation intervention and strategies for juveniles and their families. They give safety messages on scenes. And like a lot of our members, or most of our members, all of our social workers are trained in the 40-hour CIT course with a focus on juveniles. The Juvenile Assessment Center offers a centralized location that provides prevention and diversion services to youth in crisis ages 17 and younger who have no formal involvement in the juvenile justice system. The program provides services which seek to address juvenile delinquency, facing youth mental health challenges, trauma, substance abuse, and curfew violations, along with family dysfunction and parenting issues. The program seeks to assist with resolving underlying escalating behaviors. And what is KCPD's response to that in community engagement? Our social service specialists utilize this resource to provide juveniles early intervention, long-term case management to include therapy, in-home services, and child individual needs. Youth Court, another restorative justice practice that is utilized where their peers are involved and act as a diversion from the traditional juvenile justice system. The objective of Youth Court is to reduce juvenile crime, provide an alternative to formal family court, and promote civic involvement by the young people who volunteer. What is community engagement's response? The supervisor of social services attends Youth Court twice a month and assists families directly in multiple areas of service to assist with ensuring attendance in Youth Court. And just a good all-around resource in this restorative justice practice. Teens and Transitions. This is a program that's done on our youth services side that really targets youth between the ages of 14 and 18 years old It's an 8-week summer program, working hand in hand with our KCPD school resource officers. And the program encourages job readiness, life skills, while bringing youth together with art. I'll also say that Teens in Transition is done with one of our community partners. Kyle in the Lyrics Institute is heavily involved and is a great partner for the KCPD. And as you can tell in the photographs, we've been, this program for community engagement and the KCPD has been very successful. Risk for retaliations. This is, like I said earlier, this is a program, this is something that we're doing in conjunction with our investigative elements and our community partners, along with our social service specialists, where we actually reach out to the juveniles outside of their homes and inside of schools, and an attempt to head off the violence way upstream, like I said earlier. In these risk for retaliations, we contact the juveniles and their families. We offer alternatives. We let them know that we understand that there's an issue with them, and we're trying to get them involved in those intervention prevention strategies ahead before it goes down to the enforcement component. An example of this is two of my officers that work up north, along with Captain Young and I have met with North Kansas City School District, and we've been working with the school district and the school resource officers to employ these intervention prevention strategies as far as getting into the schools with these risk for retaliations. And we're currently working with the Clay County Sheriff's Department towards the end of the school year, and we're going to be really addressing this going into the 2024 school year, now that we're about 5 to 6 weeks left in this school year. And that concludes this short presentation about the juvenile initiatives and community engagement. This is all of our information is up to date, and you can scan that QR code and email community engagement directly. So thank you for your time, and I'm available for questions.
Great. You mentioned that the Juvenile Assessment Center is centrally located. Where is it? Or is that a secret?
Nope, it's right down there downtown at 27th and Cherry. I couldn't think of it off the top of my head.
That's where the juvenile court is? Oh, okay.
Yep.
Pardon me?
Right across the street, ma'am.
Okay. How do they get there?
They come from the program, the center itself, and then they're already at the facility, if I'm correct on that one. They're already at the facility, they're escorted over, and then our social service specialists actually go over there and meet with them there.
Because I thought you said these were people that had not been involved in the juvenile justice system.
I know that it's a portion of the program. They are in the program itself.
Okay.
Hey, Tammy, I'm going to bring the social service specialist. She's the one that's with the program. She's going to be able to explain it a lot better than me.
While she's coming, please be sure, this is a response to Mayor Lucas's questions, so please be sure that your presentation gets to Mayor Lucas.
Yes, actually was able to speak on behalf of community engagement, I don't know, about 3 weeks ago at the city, over at the city council chambers, and Mayor Lucas actually saw extended version of this particular presentation. I'll let Tammy explain juvenile justice.
For the Juvenile Assessment Center, majority of the kids, I mean, there are some that if they have been in detention, once they're released, they will refer them over to them, but mostly it's the kids that we see in the schools or that we come in contact with that have behavioral issues. So this program covers truancy, if there's a houseless child, behaviors in the home, things like that. They have case management, and they do in-home services as well, so they'll follow the child. So once we refer, they will actually get them into services and actually help do more in-home type situations. So it's not all those that are involved in detention, because more than likely they have more court involvement. So these are those that are not so much court involved, but are going that way.
Okay, great. They're upstream.
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Any other questions?
Just great work, and appreciate everything you guys do. This is the foundation of getting those kids on the right path, and, it takes a village, so thank you.
We appreciate everybody's support. Thank you.
Colonel Ortiz?
Good Morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
My information is under tab D in your books. As you can see, our law enforcement strength is at 1099, which is 10 more from the previous month. We were at 1089. We have 24 police officer candidates and 510 professional staff members. In terms of law enforcement hiring, we have 31 candidates in the process of possible eligibility. We have 24 confirmed candidates for the 181st class, which started yesterday, March 18th. We also have 14 candidates pending job offers and 9 laterals that we're working on.
Excellent. Keep it up.
Thank you. Communications unit, we hire 4 members and have 5 job offers pending and 3 members in the process of possible eligibility.
Good. You know we care.
Absolutely. Our upcoming law enforcement testing dates will be tomorrow, March 20th, April 27th, May 23rd, June 27th, and all of this is going to be taken our police academy. We want to remind everyone that our department offers a wide range of opportunities for anyone. We encourage anyone interested to visit our kcpd.org/careers to see all the options that we have. We have plenty of positions available, so anyone out there watching, please come join us. Our wellness unit is doing an incredible job supporting our members in their most difficult times. Last month, or since March 1st, they conducted 114 contacts with members, and we appreciate the work that they do. We're also actively engaging our community with recruitment. As you can see, these are the locations that we're gonna be conducting recruitment events. And again, anyone interested, please come see us and visit our website. Our 180th entrant officer class will be graduating on May 16th, so we're looking forward to that. Unless you have any questions, that will be it for my presentation.
Maybe just one. So 9 lateral hires, that's more than we had, I think, all of last year.
Correct.
I'm curious if there's a trend or you're seeing a basis for why officers are looking at moving into KCPD.
Absolutely. We do have one that already is working with us, so that will make 10 compared to 6 from the previous years. I believe that our employment unit, starting with Major Haley, Captain Pinkerton, and Sergeant Alden, are doing a great job, and of course the recruiters as well. But I believe it's a trend that hopefully we're going to start seeing increasing. I want to say that the pay increase also has a lot to do with it, and we appreciate it.
I would think the pay increase and the opportunities here would be a driver to entice people.
Absolutely. As the bigger agency around, everyone would like to have an opportunity to be in our special units, and that's what we're also offering, and we have plenty of special units for them to choose from, so absolutely. But thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. All items for the Executive Services Bureau are under tab E of your board book. Item A, budget transfers for $1,282 to contractual services. Due to appropriation cuts to contractual services, this transfer is necessary to ensure sufficient funding in categories for the normal operation of the department. The Public Safety Sales Tax Fund moves $85,162 from contractual services to capital outlay. The Police Grants Fund transfer moves $6,137 from personal services and $49,958 from commodities in the amounts of $47,495 to contractual services and $8,600 to capital outlay. The Police Grants Fund transfers adjust appropriations to where they are needed now compared to when they were estimated in the fall of 2022 as the budget was being put together. Unless you have any questions, I do recommend approval.
Is there a motion? Make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Next.
Item B, supplemental appropriations for fiscal year 2023-24. The City Council passed Ordinance 230976, which provides $275,000 to the department in support of the National Public Safety Partnership Capacity Building Grant. This grant is for 2 years and funds salary and benefits for a newly created data analyst position, plus supplies. This position will support assault squad detectives to allow them to be more efficient. Their responsibilities will be to collect and analyze digital evidence, which in turn should produce swift, actionable information to increase clearance rates. Unless you have any questions, I request your approval to accept this supplemental appropriation.
Is there a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second?
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Item C, adjustments to special revenue accounts for fiscal year 2023-24. The department recently received $414,357 from the Jackson County Legislature to assist with the purchase of communications equipment. Therefore, it is requested that $414,357 be appropriated from the unappropriated fund balance of the Special Services Fund for the purchase of communications equipment and technology. Unless you have any questions, I recommend approval.
Is there a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Item D, adjustment to special revenue accounts for fiscal year 2023-24. I request the board's approval to increase current year appropriations by $1,528 in the DARE and Jackson County Drug Tax Unit Fund for radio maintenance and materials for DARE vehicles. Therefore, it is requested that $1,528 be appropriated from the unappropriated fund balance of the DARE and Jackson County Drug Tax Unit Fund to purchase radio maintenance and materials. Unless you have any questions, I recommend approval.
I don't have a question, but your microphone's going away for some reason. Is there a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve.
Second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries.
Item E, adjustment to special revenue accounts for fiscal year 2023-24. I request the board's approval to adjust appropriations within the Special Services Fund by $8,000 for the purchase of equipment and apparel related to promotions and retirements. Unless you have any questions, I recommend approval.
Is there a motion?
I make a motion to approve.
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second.
And seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Item F, bid number 2024-0007, ammunition munitions renewal. On February 28, 2024, bid number 2024-0007 for ammunition munitions was opened. This bid was sent to 15 vendors with only 2 responding. The contract period is from May 1st, 2024 through April 30th, 2025, with an option to renew for 3 additional 1-year periods. I recommend approval for a 1-year contract with Sunset Law Enforcement and Gulf States Distributors for a combined anticipated expenditure of $969,572.50.
Is there a motion?
I make a motion to approve.
Motion's been made.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion?
I do have a question. So it seems like there's some uncertainty in the supply chain for ammunitions, and that's why 2 vendors, and you have to split it up. So these are 3-year agreements. Will we continue to look out ahead to see if they can continue to meet our needs and whether that's competitive pricing?
Yes, we will. We'll look. We always look every year. We look at what's offered, and we obviously, I think it's shut off again. We reach out to these vendors here to see what the pricing is going to be.
Will they adjust the contract if for some reason ammo goes down, or is it just stuck? I mean, that might be
Very,
something
very
we might
rarely
want to
happens
ask
that
them.
way. That would be nice.
Yes.
But we're always in discussion to get the best price from them.
Right, I think the bigger issue is just looking out in the marketplace to see what other vendors and whether they're consistent or in a competitive range.
And one of the things in your report is that some things are not available from vendors. So should we be thinking about different weapons or different?
No, I mean, it's, the reason we split this up is because, like Sunset Law Enforcement offers a set of supplies that we need or ammunition, whereas Gulf States does not, and then vice versa, Gulf States does, but the other vendor doesn't. So that's why we split it up. Because the last several years, we've only solely went with Gulf States distributors.
Okay. Computer-aided.
Yes. Item G.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is there a motion to approve the bid for ammunition?
You had the motion and second.
Oh, motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Motion carries.
Item G, computer-aided dispatch. The department recently received funds from the Jackson County Legislature to assist with the purchase of new computer workstations for the communications unit. I request approval for the expenditure of $336,650.49 for the purchase of computer workstations from Dell Marketing utilizing the Dell Midwestern Higher Education Compact Grant. Unless you have any questions, I recommend approval.
Motion's been made.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
That concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Colonel Young?
Good morning. This morning we have the military, the military leave policy. There are very few and insignificant changes, and I recommend approval.
How many people do we have typically in a year that avail themselves of this?
I don't know. I can find out. Yeah.
Is there a motion?
I'll just answer your question. It obviously it varies, but I know personally of 3 right now that we have, but it's usually a handful at any point in time that are on military leave. Without guessing, but I'm a handful.
Colonel Ortiz, do you have an idea? No idea. Okay. That's fine.
Move to approve the.
Motion's been made. Is there a second? Second. Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now, General Counsel.
Good morning, Commissioners. I have one action item, and it's under tab G in your board book. Quentin M. Tucker has appealed the private officer licensing unit's revocation of his unarmed private security license. The basis for this revocation is his actions on February 4th, 2024, when, while carrying a firearm, he became angry and yelled profanity at a household member. Tucker told the victim, "I'm going to shoot you, and I'll kill you." Tucker used his knee to knock the phone out of the victim's hand when she went to call 911, then ripped out the victim's hair. 2 children who are members of Tucker's household were present and witnessed these events. On February 6, 2024, Tucker pled guilty in Kansas City Municipal Court to adult assault and a miscellaneous weapons violation. On February 7, 2024, the private officer licensing unit revoked Tucker's unarmed private security license pursuant to 17 CSR 2.060 8E and I. On February 25, 2024, Tucker appealed the revocation of his license. On that same day, Tucker also moved to set aside the municipal court conviction on the basis that he had now retained an attorney and understood that being found guilty of these offenses may have an effect on his professional license. The municipal court has granted that motion and set the trial for April 22nd, 2024. The private officer licensing unit recommends upholding the revocation of Tucker's license. If you have any questions, Manager Tammy Gallagher or I are happy to try to answer them. Otherwise, again, the recommendation is for upholding the revocation.
Just one quick clarification. So his license is currently in revoked status, not suspension?
His license is currently revoked, that's correct.
Is there a motion?
I would move to maintain the revocation pending the outcome of his trial.
I second that. Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you. The remainder of my report will be in closed session.
Thank you. Colonel Bennett, I started to call you Colonel. Director Merrill Bennigan.
Good morning. There is no report for OCC this month. We'll be presenting our annual report at next month's meeting. However, I did want to take this opportunity to thank Chief Graves and Colonel Maben for providing access to for the OCC staff to the roll calls at the division stations to talk about mediation, conciliation, and conflict resolution through the Office of Community Complaints. It was well received. We were able to answer a lot of questions to clear up some misconceptions about the complaint process, and I think that it's been a very positive interaction. And again, I have to kudos to my staff. I didn't make any of the roll calls. They were early in the morning and late at night. I didn't do it. But they did yeoman's work in making sure that they got to every roll call at all of the division stations. I think they're finally wrapping up that process now. So I just wanted to say thank you to them as well.
I appreciate it too. That's wonderful. And they're not going to want to hear this. I think that should be done at least annually. I mean, I think the officers need to see the people that are doing their best. And if annually is too often.
No, I'm playing with you.
But I do think it should regularly happen, that they understand what you do, how you do your work, that sort of thing.
My staff is watching this meeting, so they're going to do things to my office.
And you deserve it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Now, public comments.
Yes. Cheryl Ferguson, you have 2 minutes.
When you start talking. This is not a race. I understand, neither am I.
Good morning. I really wanted to cover some of the information that I'm bringing forth today, last session, but just didn't get it out due to time. First, I would like to thank you, Chief Graves. I think that you're doing an amazing job based on what you have to deal with and based on what you had to overcome. I encourage you to keep it up, even though I've heard that there's been meetings in which you've had insubordination. I don't know if you've acted on it, but I think everyone should respect your title regardless and not tell you to choose sides. What I wanted to come forth on, I've been actually trying to find out when exactly is the FOP agreement up for renewal again. Haven't really got a set answer, and the last time you guys did exactly what I asked that you not do, and just stamped the previous one and said, go ahead and continue. Right now, I'm just gonna read something from, this is, I believe, the Minneapolis FOP agreement in regards to statements and reports. So voluntary statements to investigators can be made written or oral, made at the discretion of the officer. That's voluntary ones. However, police reports, regardless of whether the officer gives a voluntary statement to investigators, each witness officer shall complete a police report as soon as practical following the critical incident. This goes back to that 48-hour rule. There should never be a reason in which the officer can't recant what had just happened without having to go home, have time to review all of the evidence, have time to have their conversations with other officers that were present, have opportunity to look over the report as it stands right now, and then let me go ahead and craft this for me. And the reason why I think that it needs to be taken out is the integrity as well of the officers. Going on Cameron Lamb's case, there were 2 bullets that were found in his pocket at the morgue that were not found at the scene. That gives an indication that there was tampering with of evidence. Also, within Cameron Lamb's trial, as I'm looking at the reports that were written, Cameron was described as the suspect and DeValcadere was described as the victim. He's the only one that fired a gun, though. How could he possibly be the victim?
Thank you. Colonel Young, when
And
is
we've got
the,
one, I'm sorry, go ahead.
when is the FOP agreement up for renewal?
We are currently negotiating it and have been for, past couple of months.
It expires this summer, I believe.
Anyone else?
Yes, Ron Hunt?
Board. Good morning, my beautiful chief. I'm not going to be long at all. Real quick, I just want to thank a young lady that works down at the POW, Sergeant Fabian. She is great, boy. I went down there. They got so many kids down there. I am so impressed in what the community engagement is doing with our kids. That is so dear to me. Can you, y'all know who I'm talking about? Can you stand up, Sarge? Please, for me. Can y'all give it? Come on, stand on up now. Come on, I came up. Give it out here. I am so impressed with her. I said once I get my truck fixed, I'm gonna come down there and cut the grass and stuff like that. So my truck is in the shop, and that's a good thing. So the other thing I want to talk about, Teens in Transition. A very good program. I really want to give big kudos to the chief, Deputy Chief Maben. I talk to Maben probably every other day. He's kind of like my therapist, you know. So Maben's a good guy. He answers the phone even on a Sunday, Miss Kramer. You know, 6 o'clock in the evening when stuff, but he answers the phone. I definitely want to thank Major Corey, the whole staff. I'm really impressed with the police department. I really am. Stacy's doing a good job. I don't have her phone number, but I don't need it, but because I called Maben. And so the other thing Kramer, I had the permission to say it's okay, you can address this. So, yeah. Major Corey told me I can address this. The hiring process. The hiring process. You know, I just have problems with that. When you have, and I know he did his report, but when you have about 30 people just waiting, I mean, and technology has advanced, so you have like 30 people waiting, being processed, you may want to say it. Why you just go ahead and process these 30 people instead of trying to recruit more? Because the more you recruit, they go into this waiting box. Am I making sense? They go into this waiting box, and so for me, it's like my neighbor. I had a neighbor, real quick. I have a neighbor. I said, Cheryl, last year, I said, go. Go and apply to be a 911 call taker, real quick, a 911. This was last June. And she just got she did her last interview last week. And so I asked maybe, and I asked some people, I said, help me understand with the technology has developed, why is that we got to wait for FBI? And so when I went to jail over a parking ticket. No, it's a speeding ticket. I did something stupid. But I found myself in jail real quick. It was municipal stuff, you know.
Is 2 minutes up?
Yes.
Did you say anything,
Okay,
David?
real quick. Okay, I'm good to go. But make a long story short, when the FBI do a national thing, as if you have one stuff, it shouldn't take 6 months. They do a good job.
Thank you.
Everybody's doing a good job. That's no complaint. Cheryl's being patient and she's waiting. But, you know, recruitment, I like to recruit people for the 911 call taking. It shouldn't take that long. Thank you. I keep up the good work, my brothers and sisters.
And we do appreciate you bringing that to our attention. We will look into that. No, thank you.
Ma'am, can I get a chance to respond to that? Mr. Hunt, thank you very much for that comment and the support. When we had to wait, it's because of the background that we had to receive all the information from different entities and agencies, and that sometimes take a little bit of time. Then the other part is the psychological part that we also had to wait for the results to come back, and sometimes that may also take a little bit of time, but we're definitely interested in everyone that is applying. And we do have a rate, though. Out of 100 persons or people that apply for the department, 80% are going to be eliminated because of the background or psychological exams that don't come back as positive as we would like. So, no, we take 20%. We take 20%. So 80%, no.
Don't pass the background check?
Correct.
Okay. Well, I was going to say, we try not to respond to the public comments directly. We try to do that in the next meeting by a question that's been raised.
Okay.
And make sure we've got our information accurate.
And the 80% is going to apply mostly to police officers.
Okay. Not necessarily to call takers.
Correct. Correct. And then I had the answers for the other questions that you had. We had 2 right now deployed for military leave. One of them is going to come back this weekend. And then overall, we have 48 police officers or law enforcement or personnel that actively use military leave throughout the year.
Any other question about that? All right. Next thing we're going to do is approve the minutes, and we can't approve the minutes of December the 23rd because you weren't there, and there's only 2 of us. The mayor has to be here to approve those. So Bethany, please put those on the agenda for next time. Did you have something else before?
No, that's all right.
Okay. Then I'd like to hear a motion on the February 20th, 2024 open meetings.
Have to approve the minutes of February 20.
Thank you. Is there a second? Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Mr. Kenner.
I have nothing at this time.
Mayor's not here. Tom Whitaker.
Chief, thank you for the plan. I think it brings a lot of clarity to 3 key strategies, and I know that we know that there are a lot of initiatives and tactics that support each of those, but the clarity around the 3 key strategies, I think, is helpful for the community to really understand what we're trying to achieve and how we're going to go about it. So thank you for that. That's all I have.
Did you sign up? Okay, come on. It's fine. Come on up. You've been here all morning. I saw you when I came in. Tell me your name. Kimbrew? Yes, Kimberly Kimbrew.
Middle initial C. I was born in Kansas City, Kansas, and that was my mom's
That's
name.
okay. We've got several people in this room that were born in KCK.
Yes.
David, 2 minutes, please.
Okay, so I'll try to just go through some of the notes that I was typing. First of all, I want to thank you, and I wish the mayor was here and all of you guys. And then I think I saw Merrill with the Office of Community Complaints here.
Yes,
He's been
he's in
very
the back.
kind. I don't have my glasses on, so I
Okay.
can't see. But I want to start off by thanking the KCPD for their service. In particular, I want to express a sincere appreciation to the CIT officers of our city. We have experienced great work from you guys. I could not, if it wasn't for you, my daughter would not be here. And I really, truly mean that from the bottom of my heart. I do everything I can to be proactive. I've always been proactive with my daughter. And I advocate and I champion for people like her who have mental diversity. There's a difference between mental health and mental illness. And I think that you guys need to really be careful about how you guys define what is mental health and mental illness when we have these conversations. The CIT officers in Kansas City are the best trained in my experience with police. And the reality is families like me have to have multiple police contacts when we are advocating for our daughters and our sons, because there are not any services that are available to them unless you fall through a narrow, tiny hole just to get those services. So I speak to you today because I feel like I'm a subject matter expert when it comes to dealing with the police and making police calls to 911 to receive services. And by the time I call you, it's because I'm at my last straw and I need help. I do have some concerns when I've called, and I have filed a couple of complaints in the last 6 months, just because I have seen a little difference in, kind of the responses. And in some ways, right or wrong, I have to be honest, I feel like those complaints have been dismissed. And I'm here today because my voice is important. I do think that when people call 911 and we give you information, I don't know if this is right or wrong, but we shouldn't have to give a full diagnosis of everything going on with our loved ones. Because you're not psychologists. Unfortunately, you have to be that when you show up. You have to be a psychiatrist. You have to be a social worker. You have to be a case manager. I totally understand what you guys go through. But when we call 911, they should at least let us know if an officer is on their way. I shouldn't have to hang up the phone and then call back immediately after 911 again to get someone to answer that simple question. I could go on and on. This has been a long journey, but I just wanted to at least address that or just bring that to mind.
Thank you.
Thanks.
The communications unit watches this, so those people will know what your concern is as well. Anyone else that forgot to sign in? Okay. Did you get a chance to talk?
No.
Do you want a chance to talk?
So, again, I would like to thank the chief for her crime plan. And I would like to also say it is working and thank Sergeant Volchi because I was privy to some information of some property crime that had gotten stolen, and one of our detectives said, put it out everywhere on Facebook. It was a one-of-a-kind motorcycle. Long story short, this person did that, and Detective Volchi was able to locate it because of a tip. And then they also located 4 other pieces of stolen property. So I do think the community is getting involved, and, I thank our sergeant, his team for what they did. I know how much it means when people get back their property, and that was a special case. And so I really appreciate you guys doing everything you can, but just those tips in the community, people are watching, people are listening, and it helps us because I know property crimes are really, really hard to solve unless we get tips from the community. And I think just your trust that you're building in the community helps make that happen. And like I said, I got to see that personally and appreciate that and appreciate you out in the community so much and making that happen. So thank you. And thank all of you for what you do.
I have no additional comments. I'd entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting and go into closed session.
So moved.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say your name. Dean, aye.
Kramer, aye.
Whitaker, aye.
We are adjourned. We will go back into closed session. Thank you all for being here.